Welcome back, everybody, to the Roads We've Traveled podcast. My name is AJ Pelletier. Thank you again for tuning in, subscribing, all that great stuff. I appreciate it more than you know. So season 2 is winding down. We have 2 more episodes for you guys. So if you're not caught up yet, please, go back and check out some previous episodes. There have been a lot of great guests this season. And I'd appreciate the downloads and for you to share it with your friends and family. It's been a really, really great season, and I couldn't be more happy and proud that the way that it all came out. Again, if you're new to the show, definitely check it out. Let me know what you think, rate and review. I'd appreciate it. We're available on all major podcast networks, Spotify, Apple, Google. We're available on Audible. Please rate and review on Apple. Like and subscribe here on YouTube. I'd appreciate it. Leave a comment. If you guys got stories you want to talk about or you just need to vent, you can email the show at roadswe'vetraveledpodcast@gmail.com. You can also join the Facebook page, the Roads We've Traveled Road Trippers group, which is, again, just a community page full of great people where you can post positive messages or funny pictures or whatever. Or if you just need to vent, there's a great group of people up there that would love to hear you out and talk to you and stuff like that. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Roads We've Traveled Podcast, Instagram and Twitter at RWTPod. And you can also follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/JRBuckleGaming. I stream every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights for the most part, especially, once we take our break for the holidays. Be sure to tune in there where you can catch up with me and just watch me make a fool of myself playing bad at video games with friends of mine. You can also check out my portfolio at www.alanmpelletierjr.com. If you want to directly support the show too, head over to Patreon, patreon.com/roadswe'vetraveled, or buy some merch today that I designed myself over at TeePublic. Every cent goes towards funding the show, and I'd appreciate it. But let's get into today's guest. Today's guest is my friend Lanette Sweeney. Lanette is an author of the book called What I Should Have Said, a poetry memoir. And she not only talks about the book, which is poems that she wrote after her son died from an overdose, who had a drug addiction problem. And it was a way for her to, get out her grief and everything like that in a creative way, but also to get her son's poetry published as well. And her story was just so powerful and, heartbreaking but powerful. And now she's using all of her talent now to help other grieving parents who have also lost children and to get through it and everything like that. So, and Lanette and we met a long time ago from her wife, Renee, who used to play in a band called Vision Within. So that's how I know her and everything. And, having Lanette on the show was just so great, and I'd love to have her back, down the road again. Be sure to check out her book. I'll leave a link in the description below. Help support my friend, and pick up the book today. I'm sure you all would love it. But let's get into today's episode. With I'm messing up the intro here. I came in so strong, but here is episode 41 of the Roads We've Traveled podcast with Miss Lanette Sweeney. Check it out. Welcome to the Roads We've Traveled podcast. My name is AJ Pelletier. Thank you again for tuning in, subscribing, all that great stuff. I appreciate it. I got a great guest today, author and friend, Lanette Sweeney. Lanette, how are you today?
I am great, AJ. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's been a little bit of a long month. We talked a little bit off air about what's been going on with my cat, but she's okay right now. She's by my feet, which is bothering me because she's sniffing and licking my leg. So
Oh, well, that's better than playing in the cord, which is what our
yes,
cats like to do.
yeah. But anyway, this might be a little distracting at some point. But if you hear me, just like stop, stop, like that's just her. But anyway, yeah. So your wife reached out to me and said that you would be interested in being a guest on the show and to talk about your book, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But let's get to know you and stuff like that too. But first of all, like how's life been for you and Renee during the whole pandemic and everything?
Of course, am very sad about all the people who died, but
Yeah,
I have to confess, after my son died, I felt so in need of isolation and being by myself that it's actually been kind of a pleasure to just be home and have no pressure at all to go anywhere. My wife, less so, she really misses restaurants, movies, but I've been happy we can have friends over in the backyard sometimes, and mainly I just really am happy to be home.
I hear you. I hear you. I mean, like to have that time with family too, um, which a lot of people I've been hearing about too. It was more so now that things are opening back up and people are going back to work and everything like that. Like more and more people were like, "Well, no, I want to work from home now. I want to spend more time with my family." This, that, and the other. So a lot of people found ways to do that. A lot of other people just quit their jobs because they were just like, no, I want to be closer with my family. I want to find some other means of work, this, that, and the other. So I get why there's such a job shortage right now too with that. But I wish I could do that. I don't have any other skills other than manufacturing and whatever. I mean, I'd like to do this full time
Mhm.
for a living, but it is what it
Yeah.
is. So, but no, I totally get that though. With the isolation and stuff, it wasn't so much good for me. But because I'm in therapy and everything like that now and everything, and trying to get back out there and stuff. And it's just nice to be able to see friends and family again, finally. Which is good for my mental health. But anyway, we're talking about you though.
Even my therapy went online. Yeah, like everything could be online. And
Mm,
as an author and a reader, it was also great. I could see all the novelists and all the poets do their readings online because everything from all over the country went on Zoom.
yeah,
So,
exactly. And that was the nice thing about the pandemic was how popular Zoom got, and we were talking off air. I just got rid of Zoom, and now I'm using a different platform for this
mhm.
podcast. This whole podcast started because of the pandemic. So so something good
Yeah, well,
came out
it's
of the
one way
pandemic
not
for
to
me.
be isolated, just
Exactly.
to talk to people as you interview them. Yep.
Exactly. So, and besides that, I talked to family and stuff during the holidays, hosted Zoom meetings and stuff for them and everything. So,
Mm,
which was nice. And then I did a lot of gaming with friends, um, which helped a lot with my sanity as well too. And like we would game together, and then some nights we would watch movies together. So
yep.
it was different, but I mean, like it was nice. So, but I'm just glad that I could finally go out to restaurants again and be a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
bit safer about it. So, but anyway, but let's
So
talk.
probably this won't be in the podcast, but what platform did you use to listen to watch movies together?
So they don't do it anymore though, but
Oh,
we would use Discord to talk to each other,
okay.
and from there we would can't legally do this, but that's why they took it out. But you can
Never
stream,
mind.
you can stream like if like say like I'm watching the movie and the others don't have the platform, I can
Yep.
share it in Discord so we can all watch it together. But now
Right.
we can still talk to each other, but now we all need the same service, and then we have to be like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
let's start 3, 2, 1, everyone hit go at the same time. So we're all watching
Mhm.
the
Yeah,
movie,
yeah.
so but
The
I got
sound difference though, like I've tried to even watch award shows while zooming with friends and
mm,
or family, and they're all coming in at slightly different rates.
yeah,
So like that's impossible. You have to mute everything to be able to
exactly.
watch a show.
It's terrible. Like, especially if like people don't have like microphones, they're just using their laptop, like their laptop mic or their, whatever is picking up everything in the room. So it's picking up the TV that you're
Yeah.
watching and everything's just echoing in the background. And then yeah. I get that sometimes when I game with my friends, like someone will be watching my stream at the same time, and then I hear myself echoing through their mic, and I'm like, "Can you like turn me down?" Like, but anyway, let's get to know you a little bit more. Where did you grow up?
That's actually a really hard question. I grew up all over the country. My mom always says she was looking for a geographic cure, which to what I don't know, but she was wild and couldn't settle down. I was born in Queens, New York, and then I lived in Southern California, Northern
Oh
California,
wow.
Florida, Boston, Las Vegas, Colorado.
Was your mom
Uh,
just like looking for a place to call home for herself, or was it just, okay,
yes, yes.
gotcha.
She just was always like kind of running away from herself. So,
Mm,
uh, yeah, just always wanted a place where maybe she'd be happier.
hmm. No, I get that. I was like that for a long time too. Just without the moving, I would just like kind of like run away from a lot of my problems. I do want to move away from here eventually, but I just, I don't know. I'm afraid to take that jump too, especially at my age. But yeah, no,
I
that
love the Pioneer Valley.
yeah.
I raised my kids in the Hudson Valley in New York.
Oh,
And
okay.
the whole time I was there, I was in a little small town called Highland. And uh, I just felt the whole time like I didn't belong there. Like, what was I doing there?
Mm,
And then I had a friend move here, and when I came to visit her, as soon as I came to visit, I thought, "This is where I should be." It looks the same, it's mountains and trees and very pretty, but the culture, the people are different here.
right.
Uh, this When I moved here, I heard it had the most bookstores per capita, which you don't have to tell me much more than that. So yeah, I loved it, and I worked for Hampshire College, which was full of cool people,
Oh, very
and
cool.
still is. Renee works there now, so
Oh,
yes, still
nice,
is.
nice, nice. So books were definitely something that attracted you as a kid. Obviously, like when did all that start? With did it start with like the moving around so much? Was it a way to like escape from like reality in a way, or
Yes, and moving around so much, I didn't always have friends,
mm,
so, books were my friends. I loved the library. When we would live with my grandma in Queens, the library was diagonally across the street, and I would take her she had a little shopping wagon, and I would take her little shopping wagon to the library and fill it with books and wheel it home. I just really loved, to read. I would hide under a nightstand. I don't know why. I liked like a little space to read in,
mm,
and I could read all day.
very cool, very cool. I wasn't much of a reader myself growing up. Like I honestly like I hated it sometimes, especially like book reports that were due and like
Yeah.
but I found like myself like loving fantasy and sci-fi and stuff like that. And I found as I got older, like because like I didn't really get a chance to like we would go to the library every now and then where I lived and stuff, and like I would pick up like art books and like they had like a video section too, and like
Hmm.
I remember vividly, I forget what video it was, but it was just this art video, instructional video, and this guy was like teaching you how to shade, but like he had like a little jingle with these like shade shade shade, we love to
Was
shade.
this Bob Ross?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was not Bob Ross. I did like Bob Ross though, but no, I can't remember the name of this art video, but I just remember that jingle vividly in my childhood. And I rented that video so much as a kid from the library because I just loved to draw as a kid. I still draw, but every now and then now I don't have the time. Um, but yeah, no, I feel like as I got older, like I started branching out to like comic books and like, diving into like that world and, getting more and more into reading that way. And now like I work nights. I don't have a lot of time to read or anything like that now. So I'm finding myself getting audiobooks from like Audible now. And I have a subscription there. So, which is really cool. Like I'm diving into books that I never would have read before. Um, or like too complicated when I was a kid, like The Lord of the Rings, for instance. Like I'm finally listening to like the audio versions of that, and to be perfectly honest, the gentleman that's doing it, he's doing a very good job, but sometimes I start dozing off a little bit from some of the people
Oh
that read
no, that's not
it.
good.
Yeah,
I feel like
so
Harry Potter did that for a lot of kids
mm,
too. My son, I mean, he loved to have books read to him when he was little, but then he got lazy about reading them, and then Harry Potter happened, and he just loved them so much he would just gobble them up, and
Mm.
that made him more of a lifelong reader.
I'm probably
I
gonna.
also am listening to all audiobooks. Like,
Okay.
I would say I'm listening to my books right now more than reading them.
Mm.
I have a different service. I don't work for them. I'm getting no kickback for this, but I
I'm
have to
not either.
recommend it to everybody. It's called Scribed or Scribd,
Okay.
Scrib apostrophe D.
Mm.
And I feel like they should have a title that people know how to pronounce more easily. But in any case, it's it's cheaper than Audible, and most books I want are there. And you don't have to pay anything for the books. Like, you don't need points or
Oh,
a
cool.
free book a month. Like, all the books you can listen to anytime. Uh, so, and every magazine you could think of, and Pandora comes free with it.
Mm.
It's really great.
I got Audible a while back, and like I use it like. Yeah, the thing I like about it is that like I can cancel anytime and I can still keep the books that I have, which is nice. Um,
Hmm.
but there are some like originals that came out recently that I've been really, really getting into, like the Sandman, for instance, which is a DC related property, comic book related,
Hmm.
but it's a Neil Gaiman, and I love Neil Gaiman, and
I love him too.
I love the way they did this Audible series because it feels like those old classic radio shows where they
Yeah.
have a bunch of different actors and actresses reading the parts. There's a lot of sound design. Like, you feel so immersed in the world of this character and what's going on in it. And it just like captures my attention so much that like I forget I'm at work. So like I'm listening
I
to these
totally know what you mean.
stories,
Yep.
you know what I
I
mean?
have to
So
have an audiobook for all the cooking and cleaning I
mhm.
do.
Exactly.
100%.
So to the point where like, I'm manufacturing parts like parts and stuff, like I have to pay attention to like what I'm doing too. So like there would be times where like, oh, did I check that last one correctly? Let me double check. And like, okay, good, I did. You know what I mean? Because I'm listening to
Mhm.
James McAvoy's performance as the main character, and it's just so captivating. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, I gotta stop. Like, but anyway, getting back to you. Sorry, just wanted to tell you how much I love the Sandman series right now. But yeah, so growing up, you were saying that you moved around a lot. You got into reading at a young age and loved it and loved going to the library and stuff like that. Was growing up kind of tough with all the moving and stuff? Like you were saying, it was just you and your mom. Was your dad in the picture at all, or
It wasn't just me and my mom. It was me and my mom and her many husbands and boyfriends.
okay?
My father died when I was a baby,
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
and then my mom had remarried. By the time I was one, I thought that was my dad. But then when they split up I was around 6 or 7, and they told me he wasn't my real father, and he was just, it was very sad. I completely thought he was daddy, had known him since I was a baby and called him daddy, and then he was just done with me. That was super sad. And then my mother had a lot of boyfriends, and some of them were nicer than others. One of them was very violent, and she kept going back to him for some years, and that was terrible. uh, so yeah, it wasn't great.
Yeah,
My
that
grandmother kept telling me, hang in there, you're going to get to be grown up and make your own choices, and that I really did hang on to that, and that was good.
that's great to hear. Some positivity during all that stuff too. I can't imagine how hard that must have been at times. Like I didn't have that myself growing up. I mean, like for me personally, my parents were together until I was a sophomore in high school, but the signs were there like the later years that the marriage wasn't
Hmm.
going to last, this, that, and the other, and there wasn't a lot of communication, mainly on my father's side, and it's it does a lot to you too when you're that age and you see that kind of stuff, and you're also just starting high school, and you're trying to fit in and you're getting picked on. So like for me personally, that's how it was. Like I go home and see a lot of stuff happening at home, and then I go to school to escape, only to
Mm.
get you know so my
Mm.
childhood wasn't all great all the time. There were some great moments, but yeah, I don't know. I seem to dwell too much on the darker times, and that's why you know,
It is hard not to do that though,
yeah,
because those are the memories that stand out most for us,
exactly,
unfortunately.
exactly.
I'm sure I was doing a lot of fun swimming and riding my bike
Mm,
when my mom was being abused. But what do I remember? Like, not the swimming and bike rides.
right, right. I mean, there are times too where like people will like, family members are like, "Oh, you remember that time, this funny moment where this, that," and I'm like, I don't remember that, you know?
Yep.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I don't know. But so wow, that must have been like rough for a while though. I mean, like did you get out at like 18 or like what happened
I
after all
moved out
that?
of my mom's house at 15,
Oh wow.
actually. And then I did live with her a little while more when I was 17. But basically I was out
Mm,
from mid adolescence. And then I started college at 17, but I was cocktail waitressing at the same time, and just and it felt disappointing to me. I was going to Queens College, and I had a stepfather who wouldn't fill out the FAFSA, so I was taking loans, and it didn't feel worth it. But I was very young and didn't know what I was doing. I
mm,
dropped out of everything too. I dropped out of high school to get my GED and go faster to college, and then I was in college for 1 year, and I dropped out of college because I felt like I was better off just working, which was silly. And then I wound up not getting my degrees till I was in my 30s because then I wound up getting married and having children,
mm,
and it was hard to fit that in. But eventually, I quit for a year. I waitressed to get through school and took some loans again, but I just spent a year taking the maximum number of credits every semester
mm.
through the summers and got the degree.
I did almost the same thing too. I went to community college for like a semester after high school, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do yet. I mainly went because my mother was forcing me to go, and I just
Yep.
bombed all my classes, failed, had dropped out, and then
Mm,
I went to a tech college for a year for plumbing because I thought that's what I wanted to do. It wasn't what I wanted to do, but I finished. I just never found work in it. So, and now I can't even use it anymore because it's like you have like a 10-year limit on the training before you
Wait,
got
I
to
was
go
just gonna
back.
say, are you a plumber,
No, 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 no,
AJ?
no, no, no,
Plumbers are
no.
so in demand.
I no, I hated that field.
I'm
I
sorry. That's
hated
too
that.
bad.
I only did it because like there's a lot of stuff like I've said about in this podcast before that like I should have listened more to my mother when I was a kid instead of my father. My father was constantly telling me like you need to make money, you need to be stable, this, that, and the other, and that's what he was taught his entire life. He didn't follow his
Mhm.
dreams or whatever, where I wanted to get into art and entertainment and stuff like that because that's where I felt more comfortable in. But I listened to my father, not my mother. My mother was like, "No, follow your dreams, this, that, and the other." And now I'm 34 and I'm a machinist because my dad was a machinist, and here we are. But I
It's a
did,
living.
yeah, it's a living. I did go to school for graphic design though online, and my school closed like 3 months before I finished, which was
Oh,
heartbreaking.
that is
Yeah,
awful. I am so
heartbreaking.
sorry.
Yeah, it was. Thank you. And they tried transferring me to another online school out in California, and I did a little investigating, found out that that school was in the middle of a lawsuit, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take my chances with my portfolio. I'm gonna put my name out
Mm.
there, see what I can do. I mean, I've had some side work, I've also done some video work and everything, which has been nice. But, I'm not where I want to be yet, which is frustrating at times. But it's a very competitive field to get into, and I totally understand. That's why I'm like learning to deal and accept where I'm at right now and be okay with it. It's
Yes,
not permanent. It's not, it's temporary, you know?
nothing is permanent, and that is the secret to happiness, AJ,
Exactly.
to accept where you are.
Exactly. Also therapy and my
Yeah,
new
that too.
my new medication that I take that I needed to because because panic attacks are a thing that I realized this year.
Oh,
So but anyway, getting off that subject. But all right, so you worked your way through college a little bit here and there, and you said you got your degrees in your 30s because you dropped out a little bit, this, that, and the other. What was it that you wanted to do as you got older? You said you got a family, you had kids and everything like
I
that. But
just I stumbled into reporting and editing
ooh,
without my degrees, and then it was hard to do anything else because I felt like I got lucky getting jobs without a degree. But eventually, I went to work for United Way in our area in Dutchess County, Poughkeepsie. and I loved that job. I was so zealous about United Way. I just loved that you could give a little bit out of your paycheck and it could add up to a big gift and you could make a real difference in your community. Yeah, I was zealous about it. I loved it. And
Mm.
they were I had little kids at the time. My son was born in 1990 and my daughter was born in 1992, and I was in my mid 20s when they were born, and that was around when I started working at United Way, and I worked there 5 years, and then that was when I was about to get a job at a hospital as their chief fundraiser, and at the last second, somebody said something to me about where I got my degree, and I said, "Oh, I don't have a degree. The places I listed there are just places I've attended."
Mm.
And it was like you could hear a record screech,
Oh no.
and that was it. The offer was withdrawn and I didn't get that job. So I just felt like, all right, I'm not going to go through life like this. But it turned out college was a lot more than a piece of paper, which is what it felt like before I got the degree. I really did learn a lot, and I majored in women's studies, which I was afraid to do. I felt like people would make fun of me, and which maybe they do, but I don't care. Fortunately, I got over that and did it anyway. And it's women's studies is just like the study of everything, history, literature, the humanities basically, but with what were women doing instead of just what were men doing. So,
It's almost like it
uh,
should be
it,
added into current history, which
yes,
is
yes, it should be. Yes, it should be. But, it's like the same as Black studies.
yeah.
Unfortunately, that's also not included in our general education. So that's why you'd need separate classes sometimes.
God, I hope this all changes soon because it's so crazy. But I don't want to get too political right now.
Yeah,
But
no, it's
yeah,
all right. I mean, I wish they would stop calling it critical race theory. It's
yes,
just history.
yes, totally agreed. But anyway,
Uh,
continue.
so I got my undergraduate degree in women's studies in that year, and I was the director of a child abuse prevention center for a year. That was very hard.
Mm,
Uh, I could hear the children screaming during their exams, and it was too much for me, too
yeah,
up close. The fundraising was good, but from more of a distance. Um, and then my marriage ended. My husband and I split up, and I know you talked about going through the divorce when you were in high school. I had been My husband was 19 years older than I was, which honestly didn't really make that big of a difference. We got along very well, and he was funny and smart and nice and a good husband. And yet, all the years we were together, I kept feeling kind of like the way I felt in Highland, New York, like I didn't belong there, like it wasn't the right fit for me, and I had made a mistake, and I couldn't talk myself out of that. So by
mm,
the time we wound up splitting up, my son was exactly the age all the books say is the worst for boys. He was like 13, and that's just apparently a terrible age for a boy to see his parents split up.
yeah.
Um, but I got a townhouse in the same townhouse development where I had lived with my husband so that the kids could go back and forth, and we worked hard to stay friends, and we did. And somewhere in there, I was teaching college, and I got a real estate license. I got licensed to teach high school, but I wound up not doing that. And then eventually, I moved here. And my son was 17 by then, and my daughter was 15, and she finally agreed I could move. I didn't want to move while the kids were just so adamantly against it, I guess because of all the moving I did as a kid. I perhaps took their point of view too much into account, and so I was really waiting for her to say okay. So my my son stayed with my husband the last year of high school to finish, and my daughter came with me here. And the friend I had visited by then, she was also married to a Larry. We both split up with our Larrys, and we were like Kate and Allie. We were two women with two teenage daughters, and we shared a house that we rented together. And I went to work for Hampshire.
Gotcha. Yeah, I totally relate to what you were saying before about uh, being at that age and seeing your parents divorce and everything like that. It was definitely rough for me for a little bit too, and I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to, you know, and being that young too it was really dumb and naive of me. But my mother was also kind of like forcing the therapy, and like doing the group thing and everything like that. And I see now that she was just trying to help, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
but she also talked to our school counselor, and my school counselor would check in on us and check in with me
Mm.
mainly, which that was better for me. I feel like
Oh,
because it got me talking with somebody else and not in the same room as my mother and my siblings. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
and I got to open up a little bit more about that kind of stuff, and I felt better about dealing with whatever I was going through at that time, whether it was being picked on or going home and seeing my parents fight or this, that, and the other. And it made it easier to deal with. It made it easier to get through the day. It made it easier to communicate more with my parents about how I felt about what was going
Well,
on.
I give your mom credit because one of my great regrets is that I did not push my children into therapy. They were both very resistant, and I let them say they didn't want to go. And although they say you can't really get much out of therapy if you really don't want to be there, but they really needed help, and whatever
Right.
emotional problems they were displaying, I just kept hoping it was all going to work out, and that turns out to have been a mistake. So
I give my mother all the credit in the world now, you know what I mean, as an adult. And I realized as I got older that I really did need therapy back then. And it was very good for me. And like to the point where I went back to a therapist years ago for myself because I was dealing with a lot of trauma that I didn't know how to deal with. And I was having suicidal thoughts all the time. And
mm,
stuff like that. So, and I had breakdowns within this therapist's office. Like I felt so bad for my therapist
mm,
because it was just like I have a new one now, but because the one I had before, she actually left that practice for some family stuff, which is totally understandable. But there, I would go in there for days. It was like twice a week. I was seeing her for a while, and then it was like went down to like once a week. She would talk to me about like, okay, so what happened? How you doing this week? Like, did you deal with this, that, and the other from last visit? I'm like, yeah, 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 but you're never gonna guess what happened this week. And then she's like, oh my god, like, she was like, it's always something new with you. Like, like I feel like I don't know what to say because like there was at that time there was just so much going on with me too. Like, I went
mm-hmm.
through a bad breakup. Things were bad with my siblings and I and my father. We weren't talking. I'm like standing up for my mother, you know what I mean? Because she was being taken advantage of from family members. Uh, my cat passed away. Um, my best friend committed suicide. Like it was just one thing after
And
another, after another,
honestly,
after
isn't
another.
life just one thing after another? It's so good to have somebody objective to talk to, someone who's
Exactly.
in your corner and has your back and can reflect back to you the most positive parts of yourself.
It can help you
Yeah, I've been
navigate
really
through
good at
it too.
therapy
You
too.
know what I mean? Like just to, you can talk to your friends and talk to your family members about certain things, but like they're not always going to understand what you're going through or how to help you through it. You know what I mean? Like they just be
Yeah.
like, yeah, that really sucks. And then, and sometimes I need that. I need to unload to somebody that just will listen. But other times, like, I need someone to help me navigate, like, why am I drinking so much? Why am I
Hmm.
being lazy? Why am I not getting up and going for that hike that I said I was going to do? Like, is it my depression? Is it just I'm tired, this, that, and the other? Like, I need someone to objectively question the things that I do. And that's what therapy is and to help me navigate through it. And that's why, like, I love therapy now. Like, I don't, my therapist now that I see, we were seeing each other once or twice a month, but it was like really aggressive, like because I was getting panic attacks, like I said earlier this year, and I didn't know what was going on. I was actually in the hospital for it and everything because
Mm.
I literally thought I was going to die, and so I started seeing this new therapist, and she's sorry, this people driving up my road. I don't know if that got picked up at all, but um,
I didn't hear it.
okay, good. This mic is awesome. But
Mhm.
anyway, yeah, so she was helping me navigate through that, but she would also question me and like give me homework to do, you know what I mean? And she would show me things to do like whenever I felt a panic attack coming on, like things I could do to ground myself again. I'm like, this is awesome. And now we're to the point where like I just go in for checkups now. You know what I mean? Like I see her next week and it's the first time in like a month. You know what I mean? Or maybe like a month and a half since I saw her. So, and we're just going to go from there and see what happens. But I wouldn't.
Maintenance therapy.
Yes, exactly. Just to check in, you know, like I've been on a little bit of a higher dose of my medication for a few months now, you know, just to check in, see how that's helping, where my head's been at. I mean, it's been kind of up and down a little bit here and there, but you know, especially with, you know, the cat and everything now. But anyway,
Mhm.
I don't want to keep talking about myself here, but I don't I don't think like I'm trying to think of a way to say this, but I know you must have some regrets about the
To say the
therapy.
least, yeah.
Yeah. And I I don't know. Like I wouldn't blame yourself totally for that. I mean, like you were also going through a lot yourself too. You know what I mean? And I guess um, you know, you were trying to
For
do
not getting my kids
no,
therapy,
no,
you
no,
mean,
no,
or
no, 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 no. I mean, like, just you were doing the best that you could in a rough situation. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I give you all the credit in the world for that. And um, you know,
You know
I
what? All our mothers were doing the best they
yes,
could, though. You know, like,
exactly.
so was my mother. You know, I mean, there might be an occasional really evil mother who's not doing the best she can, but most of us, even when we're doing a really poor job, are doing the best we can.
Yeah. Like trying to put on a happy face when you're in a situation like that and trying to be there for your kids, I think was the best thing that you could do. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you're you're putting on that brave face for them and you're telling them it's going to be okay. You know what I mean? Like, and I think I respect people that do that all the time when they're stuck in situations like that too, but it's always a good idea to you know, listeners out there to like, if you are struggling, to definitely reach out and get help if you can, and if you see that,
Yes,
you
we are
know,
100% therapy proponents here.
yes, that's what
Yep.
the show strives to do. You know, I do this also in honor of my friend who isn't here anymore because, you know, he had his demons too, and we can talk a little bit more about that. You know, coming into your book here because he also had addiction problems too, and between that and his depression and everything like that, and he also moved miles away from me where I couldn't be there with him anymore. It took him. So it was very hard for me to deal with for a long time too. And I still grieve about it too. So I feel like you and I can relate a little bit on that subject. So
Mhm.
but yes, I think you were doing the best that you could in a situation like that, and I give you all the credit in the world for that. I would not blame yourself uh too much for that. You know what I mean? Like, but let's talk about like let's switch up here a little bit.
Sure.
So
Whatever I blame myself for, though, I just want to mention I have also, over the 5 years since my son died, learned to forgive myself. Like,
yes.
that is really
And that's the
the main
hardest
thing. That
thing to
even,
do is to forgive
yeah,
yourself. I've had to forgive myself too for stuff that I never thought I would get over, you know? Like, and it's so hard to do, but I'm sorry. Go on. Like, yeah.
no, that's just really what I was going to say. That self forgiveness. I have an essay I wrote about my son giving me a bumper sticker that said "Love is all you need." And I was at a really bad place where I was out of money shortly after the divorce, and I ripped the bumper. He bought the bumper sticker with his own money, and put it on my car, and I ripped it off. And I was like, "Love is not all you need. You need money to pay the mortgage." I mean, it's just one of my most shameful moments. And so I reveal this in this essay, but by the end, I say, like, really, I mean, it's shameful because now I understand love is this, center of life and means more than anything else. And that was a terrible response to have, but also um, that love of self, which includes forgiving oneself,
Hmm.
is really what one needs to get through a tragedy like my son dying.
Yeah,
Like there's no other way to go on.
exactly. And you know, I've had to realize that too. And you know, it's almost the same situation as you too. Like, you know, I'm in debt myself right now too. I'm constantly thinking about like, okay, what am I paying this month to like keep things going here and there? And now I got my cat's vet bills that are piling up. you
Mm.
know, and thinking about her and also my well-being, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. But you know what, at the end of the day, like I look at her, she's all I have right now. You know what I mean? Like she's there for me at the end of the day when I'm feeling low, and I'm just like, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. I have people that care about me. I have this little girl to there for me at the end of the day. And I have to constantly remind myself that I'm doing the best that I can. And then, love is all you need. When you have people who care about you, and pets or whatever, that are so excited to see you or love to hear from you, then everything's gonna be okay. And you also got to love yourself too. And I'm learning to love myself more and more every day,
Yep.
even though I posted something the other day that it was a little self-deprecating. I'm not gonna lie, but it was back in the day when I was still making music within the Red and stuff, and I'm looking at myself. I was like, man, I used to be really hot. And I'm like looking at myself in the mirror now. I'm like, I have such a dad bod going on. Like I'm working out and everything, but it's like I look at that gut and I just like point at it. I'm like, ugh. So like,
Well, you look good from here, AJ. I
thank you.
can't
From the
see the dad
from the
gut. You look
chest
good.
up. Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. But I posted that and I got a couple laughs and stuff like that. And then like I made a little comment. I was like, man, if my therapist saw me post this, I would never hear the end of it. One of my friends was like, chiming in here and there. But yeah, anyway, it was just I think it was also I forgot to take my medication that day too, so that could
Oh,
have
yeah.
that could have been another
That's
reason.
never good.
So, but it is what it is. But I got a little bit of a laugh out of it. I was just like, you know what? And then I just looked at myself in the mirror and did what my therapist said. Like I'm doing the best I can, and you're awesome. Keep going. So
Yep.
total cliche, but it does help when you switch gears in
And
your mind.
seriously, something I tell younger women or any woman really, your body looks the best it's ever going to look. It's like, I mean, you might perhaps, build more muscles if you do more working out,
Right.
but like you're only going to get older from here. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like I'm 55 and I'm happier with my body now than I was when I was in my 20s, because in my 20s I was crazy and
Mm,
I just, I had complete body dysmorphia and I would critically pick every bit of myself apart.
mm,
Whereas now I'm like, yes, it's all great. Like I because I'm looking at myself through a different lens. So
exactly.
it would be great if we could all remember we're only going to get older. Like this is the most youthful body you will ever have right now.
I have to remind myself of that every now and then too. So, but it's nice to hear somebody else say it too every now and then. And she's like,
Yep.
you know what, you're right. You're absolutely right. So, yeah, exactly. But let's talk about your book here. Your book is what I should have said, a poetry memoir about losing a child to addiction. When did you write this book?
Uh, when my son first died, which he died of an overdose when he was 26, 5 years ago,
Right.
I could barely even read a book, let alone write anything. So for several months, I mean, I was literally trembling all the time. I was in such rough shape, which apparently a main stage of grief that people don't talk about is anxiety, especially with a sudden death, because this insane, crazy thing has happened. Who knows what might happen next? Like,
Mm,
that's the feeling your body has, that
right.
something so horrible beyond imagining has just occurred. Anything might happen now. And so you're just in a constant state of hypervigilance and anxiety, which I was. But um, I've already mentioned I always loved books. They've always been my salvation. And so when I felt able to read and could like process a paragraph, I immediately started reading books about death, grief, recovery from grief, life after death, uh, anything I could get my hands on that might offer me any comfort. And then I started writing, and I wrote like a poem, I wrote a lot of poems. Many of them were terrible. And then over time, I came to feel like I was going to have enough to put a collection together. And then when I thought about how I could put my son's poems in the book with my own, then I became really determined to get it
Mm.
published, because my son was also a great poet. And the day after he died, we got an email that a humor essay he had sent in to Recovery Today had been accepted. And
Oh.
he died before he saw that email, like, so he never knew that his work ever got published. And I'm just really happy that I'm able to get his work out into the world as well.
That's really cool of you to do, and like that's heartbreaking though. Like at the same time, I'm really sorry. My condolences. I know it's been a few years now. Actually, um I think around the time I met Renee and Vision Within when she was still with Vision Within. I do remember
Hmm.
hearing her talk about a little bit about what happened and everything too, with the two of you and everything. So my condolences again. Like it's truly heartbreaking to hear. But I'm glad that you found an outlet to deal with it and to get through it and stuff. I mean, like, did you talk to someone too, like a therapist to help you
Of
out with it?
course,
Yeah,
medicine and therapy
yeah,
all the way,
yeah.
100%. But I have found through my work with grief groups, I just went to a bereaved parents conference,
Mm,
national conference. What seems to help parents recover best from the loss of a child is being able to help other parents. So, in the same way that AA works, that somebody's able to get sober by helping people get sober after them, uh, by helping the parents who come along after us and are in this intolerable early grief. It helps to be able to say to them, you can get through this, you can learn to carry this. You never get over your grief, of course. Like,
right,
I'm always going to be heartbroken that my son died at 26, but I have learned, that's really the best way to say it, that I've learned to carry the grief with grace, like that it's with me all the time, but I can have joy at the same time. I can feel peace at the same time. And the book's title, What I Should Have Said. So that's one message of the book. And the other message is what I should have said, which is medication assisted treatment saves lives and shouldn't be stigmatized. So a few days before my son died, he called me and he was trying to get Vivitrol, which is, by then he was a heroin addict. And Vivitrol had kept him sober for 6 months. It's a shot that blocks your opioid receptors and reduces your cravings for 30 days at a time.
mm,
And I believe they now have shots that last up to 6 months at a time, which sounds like just a miracle to me.
mm,
But it started as, it's naltrexone is the generic name. It was a pill in the 80s. There are no side effects that I know of. I mean, there must be some with every medication there, but he didn't ever have any negative side effects. He got the shot for 6 months and stayed clean. And he turned 26. He no longer had my insurance, and he was living in Nevada, and they have a bad state Medicaid plan, and they didn't cover the shot. So they were only offering him Suboxone or methadone. And so he called me and he said, "Mom, I think if I can't get the shot, I'm going to take the Suboxone they're offering me." And I maintained a stony, judgmental silence. I felt like he was stronger than that and he shouldn't. The way I viewed it at that time was, you're just getting high on the state instead of getting high on the street. And why would you do that? I didn't say any of that, but your kids know what you're thinking.
right,
So uh, I didn't say anything. And then 3 days later, he was dead. So obviously, that is the thing I have most had to forgive myself for. I didn't know then what I know now. I have since been to a methadone clinic where I've seen healthy young people come in, take their shot, go out to take their kids to daycare, and go to their jobs. Like, people are functioning on these medicines,
right,
and they're a bridge to wellness. Most people don't stay on methadone the rest of their lives. I know it's very hard to get off of methadone and Suboxone. I mean, any opioid that you're addicted to, it's hard
right.
to get off of it. But
There is something that was just brought over from to the U.S. within the last few years. I believe because I work part time for a vape shop here in Connecticut, and we also deal with like CBD products, like legit CBD products. But we also started bringing in other things like kava and kratom. Kratom is something that helps opioid addicts to get off of um, their substance abuse and stuff like that too. Um, and we've seen a lot of change with people that have had opioid addictions and stuff, like take kratom, which is a natural. It comes from like a plants and stuff like that. It sort of blocks the from what my understanding of it, it sort of blocks like the nerves or whatever the addictions that you might feel that you need or whatever. It kind of blocks them. It kind of helps ease with some of the addiction a little bit and some of the pain. And we've had people come in and that have had substance abuse problems and addiction abuse problems that try it and say that it works really well for them. There are
Yeah.
some side effects that I've read about from this kind of stuff. I mean, like I would not take it myself personally because I've never had
And you
the
can
problem.
overdose on it, and it
Yeah,
is an opioid. So,
yeah.
I mean, I know it's unusual for that to happen, but
Have you heard of
I
have you
just
ever
started
heard
reading
of
about
kratom
kratom
or yeah?
because what?
Have you ever heard of kratom?
I have heard of
Okay,
it, and the reason I was just reading about it is because I had to give up marijuana recently
okay.
because I have this cyclic vomiting syndrome, and I've been diagnosed with cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, which means that I throw up randomly. For me, it's in the middle of meals. So for many people, it's when they first wake up in the morning. And the vomiting can last for days and days without
Ooh.
stopping. Uh, People can die from like vomiting too much if they don't go to the hospital and get some fluids in them.
Hmm.
Um, and I really did not want to believe it was marijuana because I've smoked since I was young, and uh, but I believe because I stopped throwing up. So then I was looking up like what can one take as a substitute, and so I read a lot about kratom, and I was like, there's no substitute because nobody
Right.
can die from marijuana. Like, but apparently you can overdose on kratom. So and
Yeah.
it's addictive, even though less than other opioids.
Hmm.
You can also become physically addicted
Yeah.
to it. So
It has helped some of the customers that we've had though, and like
oh yeah, I
you know
know
what I
some
mean? Like,
addicts
yeah,
who've given up heroin with kratom,
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
I know it can work for
yeah.
some
I'm not.
people.
I'm not
But
telling.
probably it's not good. It's not a good replacement for weed.
No, 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 no. Yeah, no. And I'm telling my listeners and viewers right now, like if you don't have a problem, like don't take kratom. Like, you know what I mean? Like do
Yes.
not. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like this is
Yes.
just for people that have had heroin problems or pain pillow problems and stuff like that. Like that's the
Mhm.
kind of thing to take to get yourself down and off the stuff. But yes, like you
Yep.
could. It's still there's still side effects that come from it. You can still get very very sick from it if you know. But anyway, getting back to your book here and everything like that. I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. But
Sure.
yeah, so how many poems were in the I like I know you sent it to me and I started reading through some of
Oh,
them
it's
a little
okay.
bit there. It's just like I said, I have such a busy schedule. I did read some of the press that you have been posting on Facebook about the book. Like you had something go on at your local library recently too that just happened, and congrats on that by the way. Was there a
Thank you.
very good attendance for that for the book?
Yeah, it was great, and it was great to do it at the library where my kids were great library users. My son once paid off a fine he had for a lost book by leading a poetry workshop for children at that library.
Oh.
So that was fun. And the same librarian is there from when my kids were little, so I guess
Ah,
she's been there forever.
that's awesome.
Um, yes, it was great, but uh, I think maybe there's 80 poems of mine and 22 or 23 of my sons in this book
Very
now, as
cool.
it is in its finished state.
I'm
If I
definitely
show it,
I'm definitely gonna get around to reading it. Oh yeah, absolutely. I love the cover. It's very
that is my son at the top of Mount Rainier.
hmm,
He lived in Seattle, and he had a friend who was a mountain climber, and they went up there, and he was very proud that he had climbed up there. And I also thought it made a nice image
it does.
for the
For
book.
for the audio listeners, it's a picture of her son, but it's like silhouetted where it's like very dark of him, and there's a very very beautiful sunset over an ocean,
Hmm.
and it's just like the colors are just so beautiful. So, where can people get this book? Is it available on Amazon? Is it
It
available?
is. It's
Okay.
everywhere. So they can get it on bookshop.org, which is like an alternative to Amazon that supports local bookstores.
Mm,
They can get it on Amazon. They can go to their local bookstore and ask for it. And if they live in the Pioneer Valley, it's at it is at physically most of the local bookstores. I'm going to bring it to Blue Moon today, but it's already at Broadside, Booklink, Amherst Books, and I'm forgetting one. there's a fourth one, and I now can't think of it. I'm sorry.
I'll be sure to leave some
Uh,
links below for people that can order it and everything in the description. So, I'll definitely find it online at a few
Great.
sites and I'll definitely leave it below. But any interest in writing more books, or is this the only one?
Yeah. I mean, I really feel like because this book was so personally important to me, both to get my son's stuff out,
Hmm,
uh, and to help other parents and to help families struggling with addiction to know what I wish I knew while my child was still alive. I didn't know his disease was terminal until it killed him.
hmm,
So to be able to say to people, uh, there's like a 97% relapse rate with addiction that is untreated. So
right.
to hope that your child, and my son had said that to me, he'd learned that himself in the rehabs. And, I was like, well, it's a good thing you've always been in the top percentile for everything. Like, I just thought he was going to be stronger than his addiction and beat it. And we have all these metaphors for, you know, people have to be warriors. And he was just human. And he thought he could outsmart drugs by taking things that are known to be addictive, and he thought he could not get addicted to them. And that first happened with crack. And as soon as he did crack, he couldn't believe it. He was a complete crackhead, and crawling around on the floor looking for one more crumb of crack, and that was his first hard drug. And then sadly in rehab they taught him how to shoot up. So yeah, the rehab in and out complex, it's sad. It doesn't. Our kids need individual therapy. They
Yeah.
need medication assisted treatment. They need not to be forced to go to meetings where they are considered not sober if they're on methadone. um, you know they need a lot of things that they're not currently getting.
Right. And that's where the uh getting political here again. That's where our government is failing our country right now. I feel like, in some certain ways, like there are the opioid yeah, addiction is crazy. There's tons of people that don't have proper medical care or treatment, especially when it comes to mental health and addiction and stuff like that too. That's why it's so bad, and it's just it doesn't matter to a lot of these politicians anymore. It's crazy to me. And if
93,000 people, AJ,
mm,
93,000 people died last year. Last year was the highest year in recorded history for people overdosing.
yeah,
And America is by far, North America, because Canada also has a bad problem, but the United States has more overdoses than anywhere on earth. We're 4%
a
of
lot
the
of it's
world's
big pharmaceutical
population.
too. Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
they're definitely I feel people should be held responsible for a lot of this, um, being what it is. I know there's a Hulu movie coming out. I just saw an advertisement for it. With Michael Keaton and I forget the other actors and actresses' names, but they're taking on the big pharmaceutical um, thing that happened with when pills got really really out there
Yep.
and people got addicted to them and everything like that, and they're showing like how bad it really got. And Michael Keaton's character, he's a doctor and he played a part of that, and how he really regrets. He says, I killed a lot of my patients, like this, that, and yeah. It's absolutely crazy. And
I mean, it is crazy. And the pharmaceutical salespeople told doctors that the pills weren't addictive,
mhm,
which that's crazy right there.
yeah,
There were already opioids, Percocet, Vicodin.
yep,
Opioids already existed. And if all of those were addictive, why wouldn't the oxys be addictive?
what,
But
yeah,
my son's story did not go through, he did not become addicted because he was first addicted to pain pills,
right,
though I know that is the root for many
right,
people.
right,
He was just addicted to self destruction.
yeah.
And
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
under
like
the
get
no,
off
it's
this. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
No. It's an important part of it. I just want to finish the stat I was saying before.
Sorry.
We're
Yes.
4% of the world's population, and we are 25% of the world's overdoses.
You hear
So
that?
we
You
are
hear that,
so
listeners?
disproportionately overdosing.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And I know my buddy was one of them too, because he did a lot of coke back in the day. He had a real problem, bad problem with drinking. Where he would go through his things of being sober for a while, and then he would go on a binge, and mess everything up. He also had epilepsy for a short time. Turned out it was something
Mm.
else. There was like sinuses or something pressing up against his brain that he got fixed. But
Ooh.
all that mixed with addiction and then depression, like you said, it was very self-destructive, and he wanted to die. Like I had to take him to the hospital several times to detox. To he had to be locked in. You know, the insane part of the hospital
Yeah.
for like a few
The
weeks
psych
because
ward.
yeah,
Yep.
it's a
Yep.
psych ward. I'm sorry, yeah, I'm losing my train of thought here as I'm talking, but yeah, he was in the psych ward for a couple weeks too because he tried killing himself once or twice, and after he and his wife divorced, he ended up moving out to Arizona to be with his mother, and he thought, I'm gonna start over. Everything's gonna be, and he was okay for a while. He had plans for like when his kids would come out and see him and everything. He would tell me all about it. And then I didn't hear from him for a while after that. And then I heard from his ex-wife one day that he just died and he committed suicide. And I was just like, you know,
Mm.
like the title of your book too, like, what I should have said or what I could have done. You know what I mean? Like I always wish I could have done more to be there because he was always there for me, and even when I didn't need it, he was always there. So that really hit home for me a lot. And I'm about to tear up about it again too, just talking about it. But
It's okay. I
yeah, I
mean, it's
know.
very sad when we lose people by suicide. I didn't
Yeah.
say it before, but I'll say now that my father committed suicide. He was a heroin addict and he committed suicide when he was 24 and I was 3 months old.
Oh,
And so then to have my son become a heroin addict and die of an overdose at 26 really seemed doubly tragic to me. I felt like because this had happened in my family, I was always very open about what had happened to my father and the drugs one must never ever do, meth, crack, and heroin.
mm,
Like uh, I wished my children never did any drugs ever, but I
yeah.
felt like it was definitely clear those were the drugs you would never do. And I never could have imagined that my son would cross that line. Like, so I'll tell this other story on myself. When my son was 16, he was still straight edge and he was angry from the divorce and arrogant and getting in a lot of trouble at school, but he had never had a drink or smoked a joint or anything. Um, and then uh, he was being really really superior about it. And one of the neighborhood kids said, "Oh, your mom smokes weed." And that kid knew that because I had bought weed from his dad. And when my son found that out, he was so devastated that I had been lying. I mean, I hid completely from the children that I smoked pot. They had no idea I smoked pot. I only did it like late at night when they were sleeping, etc. And my son was so upset that he just went out and drank and smoked like that night. And it was, I heard somebody say the other day, he smoked marijuana like an Olympian. Like it was like his job to smoke as much marijuana as he could. He would set an alarm to get up at 2 in the morning so he could smoke marijuana and have like more time to be high in his day when he wasn't around anybody. And so right from the beginning, there was something just so not normal about his use. And then he got arrested right away a couple times and got referred to a drug program and did get sober, but he was 17 and like he couldn't imagine being sober for the rest of his life from the age of 17, and I couldn't really imagine it. But of course I wish I had been able to imagine it at that time
Mhm.
because it would have saved everybody a lot of grief. But uh, and he just progressed. So I don't think marijuana is a gateway drug any more than alcohol is a gateway drug. Um, and I think alcohol is more dangerous than
I,
marijuana.
I I agree. Yeah, definitely.
But the
But a lot.
way he used marijuana, it was clear he had an addictive
I
personality
was
from
just
the
gonna
very
say
beginning.
it sounds like he had a very addictive personality, and I know a lot of people like that too. And um, there some people can. I have friends that were sober for a long time, like say from like alcohol or something like that. But like they would go on, if they had like one drink, they couldn't just have one drink. They would go an entire night and then not drink at all after that for a few weeks. And then as soon as they had another one, they would just go on a bender. And no, I don't have a problem. No, you have a problem. Like, like you have a problem. And I question myself sometimes too. I'm like, I did for a while too, because alcoholism runs in my family, my dad's side. And there were times where like my drinking was getting out of hand. I'm like, no, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem. And I'm like, no, I think I do have a problem. And I need to either cut off completely or, cut back or whatever. And I did, because
Hmm.
I was getting drunk almost every night, not dealing with my depression the right way.
Yeah.
So, but it's very, very self destructive on my part too. Um, thankfully I didn't get into any heavy drugs or anything. Like I smoke weed occasionally here and there, mainly because I have glaucoma now. But it's I'm not a big fan of it. Like I'd rather I'm more of a CBD guy myself. Like CBD helps me tremendously,
I
but
can't even do CBD.
that's
They found like the kids with epilepsy who were taking a CBD mixture to control their seizures are getting this vomiting thing now.
oh,
Like I, and I feel like something the corporations have done.
you know
They've
what it
made the
is?
strains so
CBD,
potent that they're killing us.
CBD is not regulated by the FDA. So they can say that they have this amount of cannabinoids in it or whatever and not be true. They can also put other stuff in there that shouldn't be in there. So
Yeah,
what thankfully the place I work for, we send our stuff out for third party testing and we get lab results and stuff that ensure that our customers are getting exactly what it says on the label before we sell it to anybody. So I actually use a lot more topical creams than anything, mainly because of my bad back and my knees and everything like that
yeah.
too. And I take like a tincture if I need it, to calm me down or whatever. But like other than that, like I don't smoke the stuff. I don't, do anything like I might have a gummy. Like that's about it.
Hmm.
So but other than that, like I don't really smoke, you know.
Yeah.
But
Other than that,
yeah. But anyway, yeah, let's oh wow, it's been over an hour already. I don't want to keep you too long because you wanted to you had to leave in a little while, correct? Was that it? Or
yeah, I do. I have to go do another thing, but
I'm sorry.
I wanted
Yes.
to try and find. Can I read a poem of my son's from in
Absolutely.
here?
Absolutely. And then
All
we'll
right.
we'll do some plugs and then we'll talk off air real quick, okay? Sound good?
Sure,
All right.
sure.
Go ahead. I'd love to hear this
I
poem.
can curse on your show, right?
Abso-fucking-lutely.
All right, because this poem has a lot of curses in it.
Okay.
This is by my son, and he wrote it when he was 25, the year before he died.
Okay.
Liquor bottle might as well be a pistol. Liquor bottle might as well be a pistol. I take shots like a cop with his clip full. Fuck popping a pill. I need a fistful, 'cause the beast in my belly never gets full. I try to stand my ground, but I get pulled like a midget with a leashed up pit bull. Because my addiction grips and then it yanks my chain, makes my thoughts so naughty I should spank my brain. Coming up with grand plans so damn insane, I'll break my arm like a retard, then go to the ER and tell the nurse 10 when I rank the pain. Because I'll do anything it takes just to get my fix. But when I start to sober up, I regret the shit. Gotta figure out a plan to forget the shit. So while I think, I pour a drink just to wet my lips. Next thing I know, I'm shooting dope and I'm stressed as shit because I'm digging in a vein I can't get to hit. I'm fucked and not just the tip. Fucked like an old lady with a busted hip. I'm alone and I've fallen and I can't get up. Laid out on the couch, feeling jammed as fuck. Exhausted by the thought of just standing up, let alone trying to hustle up my next score. Getting high is the only thing I get dressed for or take breaths for. I pressed forward with the piece of life I traded all the rest for.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your son had a lot of talent. He was very, very talented with his poems, and that part of that really hit for me too about like regretting stuff and then wanting to go back because that's how it was for me a while back with my drinking. Like,
Yeah.
but I totally got where he was going with that, and just wow. Again, I'm very sorry for your loss and the loss of your son. He sounded like a very, very talented, smart individual, and I'm really sorry that you had to go through all this. But I'm glad that you found an outlet with the poetry and stuff, and not only that, but also got some of his work out there. And you're also helping a lot of other grieving parents out there, which is amazing. And I applaud you so much for that. And you show so much strength. And I think it's just so amazing how you turn such a bad situation into such a positive and to give so much light to other people that need it right now. So thank you so much for
Thank you
being
so much, AJ.
absolutely. And again, please plug where, people can find your book, and I'll do some of my own plugs after
They
that.
can order it from any bookstore. They can order it on Amazon. And if you look it up online, the main thing is I didn't know this, but what I should have said, there are a lot of books that share similarities with that name. So you have to say what I should have said, a poetry memoir.
There you
Like
go.
put the whole title in there and then you'll find it.
I,
And
I
I'm Lanette Sweeney. And
yes.
I'm the only Lanette Sweeney on Facebook. You can find me there. And LanetteSweeney.com is my website. And I have essays on there about
Is
toxic
there a link on your
masculinity killed my son. Say
yeah?
that again.
Is there a link on your website to where people can get the book too?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool,
Sure.
cool. So, but anyway, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. Like one of my last essays is, uh, like I didn't find out till near the end of his life, but my son apparently was bisexual, and while he was in high school, he was meeting men in parks, uh, and that also I feel like is part of the shame that he carried inside of him that led him to hard drugs and just so many things that he felt unable to explore in himself. And uh, yeah, so I have an essay about why men die before women. There's just so many reasons. 105 boys are born for every 100 girls. So you start out that there's more of you, but by the time the kids are one, so many more boys have died that girls outnumber boys,
It's true
and
though.
it just keeps going from there.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and that's why there's the
Part of that is like parents hold baby boys less because they feel like they should be tougher, which is so crazy. Of course, I think I
exactly.
didn't do that, but who knows what I did?
Yeah, and then the suicide rate in males is so high, like statistics
Yes,
shows. Yeah.
completed suicide so much
Hmm.
higher with men.
Yeah. Well,
Well, I'm
I
sorry, that's
no
not a
no no
very
no
cheerful way to end, but
no no no
thank
no.
you.
I'm
Thanks
gonna
for having me on your show.
absolutely. I want to have you come back eventually too, because like you're such an amazing guest, and I love picking your brain about stuff like this too. And to hear your story and about your son and everything, I feel is so powerful, and it's heartbreaking but powerful at the same time too. And I'd love to talk to you more about some stuff like this too, because I don't get too deep too often with a lot of guests. Like we do talk a lot about mental health here, but um, you know, to hear the deep stuff too and to connect with it too, I feel is such a very powerful thing to for my audience as well to feel like they can connect to and relate to with people just to help them out. You know what I mean? And that's what this show is all about. It's just spreading positivity and showing everyone that you're not alone. So I just want to say thank you again for being a guest. It was
Thank
so
you,
great.
AJ.
Yeah. Anytime. And I'm gonna do some of my own plugs. We'll talk quick off air, and then we'll go from there. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. I want to thank everybody who tuned in today. If you're watching on YouTube, hello, how are you? Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm just wiping the tears from my eyes a little bit. I'm sorry. This episode was just so powerful. You can hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell icon to get notified every time we drop a new video. If you're an audio listener, we're available on all major podcast networks: Apple, Spotify, Google, Audible, all the big podcasts. Please rate and review, especially on Apple Podcasts. Helps us stand out in the stream of billions of other podcasts. Tell your friends, tell your family, like and subscribe, all that great stuff. You can email the show at roadswe'vetravelpodcast@gmail.com. Get me your questions, your comments, etc. I would love to read your stories on the air. You can follow the show at facebook.com/roadswe'vetravelpodcast. Join the Facebook Road Trippers group, which is just a group page of positivity, full of great members that if you're having a bad day or you just need to vent or you just want to post something positive or maybe some pet pics or anything like that, we love to see it. We post nothing political in there. There's no hate whatsoever. Just a group of great people. Join the Road Trip Travel group, Road Trippers group page. And you can also follow the show at RWT Pod on Instagram and Twitter. Merch. We got merch available on TeePublic. All the stuff that I designed myself, including this nice t-shirt. Says on here, take the road less traveled, which is a metaphor for taking care of your mental health. I did, you can Buy merch up there, help support the show. You can also support the show by going to patreon.com/, Roads We've Traveled podcast, or Roads We've Traveled. Yep, I always forget that. You can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/jrbucklegaming. I stream every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. We do a lot of party games with friends. Sometimes I do solo games by myself. It's a lot of good fun over there. And you could also check out my portfolio at www.alanmpelletierjr.com. Hit me up for graphic work or video work. I would love to help you out. Lanette, again, this was amazing. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Would love to have you come back sometime.
Thank you. Can I just say something I forgot?
Absolutely.
November 4th at 7 p.m. The Odyssey is having me do a virtual reading, so people will be able to watch online if they want. And I'm doing that with a woman named Miriam Greenspan, who wrote a book that came out the same year as mine, this year, The Heroin Addict's Mother. So we're going to be both reading together.
Very cool. I will also leave that information down below as well, too, because this episode will definitely come out before that. So before your
Great.
November 4th date. So awesome. All right, Lanette, thank you so much. Bye-bye.